I believe it was. Club Kiboko was about 3 hours long. His music shows were half an hour. So he didn't have much time. Neighbors started at 6:30.
Yes.
His shows started at 6. So as Jimmy Gathu's star was growing, I think he started imposing more and more of, let's now make some cool content for young people during this dead time that you have between 6 and 6:30. What are you showing during that time? MTV. Okay, that's cool. MTV is American content. How about you localize it a bit? Take this very same model where you have someone presenting the music, and the music is curated. It's not just what we're choosing or what MTV has chosen. We'll curate the music. And they're like, cool. And as that got more and more popular, then the idea about curating it into certain genres per day happened. Yeah, so Jimmy Gathu takes it to the next level now by actually segmenting genres of music day by day. And so on Monday we had Rap M, which was all hip hop, straight rap and hip hop. On Tuesdays we had Kaskas, which was your, African music. I remember it had drums, and that's where you had a lot of your Lingala. Just Pan-African music. It was the Utna model, so to speak. But of course, there was a lot of newer music coming out by this point.
Yeah.
And then on Wednesday, you had Rastrat, which was reggae and dancehall. And I think it actually started off with a lot of reggae, but dancehall was really now just starting to find its stride. So you had your Shamba Ranks,
Informer,
and then you had, of course, Snow and Informer.
I remember, in fact, you smacked something in my head. I remember seeing Jump, Crisscross on Monday.
Yes, on Monday.
Hey, yo, hip hop heads, welcome to Paradise. The only place for the hip hop top dogs.
Where my dogs at? Walk with me now. Wow, 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 yippee-yo, yippee-yay.
And cats. Where the party don't stop till we blow up the spot. Is you down to go pound for pound? We'll step up to the mix and get your freak on. And you'll bounce on only on Rap M, Monday 6 p.m. on KTN.
Danger! Danger! Get on the floor!
Yeah. But remember, it used to go deep as well, and they had music from everywhere.
Yeah.
The first time I saw Tupac was on Rap M.
But understand, hip hop worldwide is starting as well. It's not starting. It's exploding.
It's exploding.
The Snoop Dogg's and the West Coast side of it.
Yes, and remember, by this point there was still no East Coast, West Coast. By this point, it still wasn't building up. You still had a lot of. There was still a lot of Run DMC.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was still. I remember Public Enemy were formed on the whole knee of the Rap M. It was like underground stuff, man. And then that's when you start to see a little bit of Nas, you saw a little bit of Tupac, and these guys are on the come up now. Then on Wednesday, Wednesday I talked about reggae and dancehall on Rastrat. Thursday was everyone's favorite show, Jamadelic, which was just all the jams that were coming out from that point. And that's when we had
No, in fact, that's after.
That was party music, man. Yeah. That's when we had Janae for the first time.
Oh, yes. Exactly.
That's when we had Jade and SWV.
Hey, dude.
Oh man, those were good times, man. And then now Friday was Rhythmix. I don't know if it was called Rhythmix. I need to ask Jimmy to this day. Why did you call it Rhythmix? It was R&B. It wasn't.
And it was the nice R&B.
It was good R&B. That's when he had a bit.
The shika time.
Yeah, Tevin Campbell.
Exactly.
And then he was doing the same thing at Club Kiboko. Club Kiboko always would break into a music segment. And again, Jimmy Gathu really took advantage of this whole take content from the other KTN shows that can't fit within their segments. If, for instance, Kylie Minogue releases a song. Kylie Minogue was a character on Neighbors.
Neighbors, yeah.
And her name was Charlene, and she had a boyfriend called Scott, who I can't remember his name, but he was also a musician. So Jimmy Gathu was like, hey, yo, you remember Scott from Neighbors? He's released a song. Do you want to listen to that song? And then he'd play the song, and we're like,
that song called?
I can't
It
remember.
was.
Kylie Minogue's was called Better the Devil You Know. Yeah. It's crazy, man. Anyway, so Jimmy Gathu now just redefines what. Remember, again, this wasn't straight up Kenyan content, but it was still content that was presented to you by Kenyans. So we felt like we owned it a bit more.
Yeah, and let's be real. It was from what we saw on KBC, this was in touch with us.
It was.
In fact, like me, I'm obsessed with music from the 90s till today. It's because growing up, this was the guys who fed me content.
So do you remember that Jimmy Gath was also part of a singing group himself?
Now the group of
Not the Matatu
Stay
Drivers
Alive.
guys. No, that was just a PSA song that they brought a bunch of people together to make. It was the equivalent of Get in the driver's seat. Yeah, it was a PSA music, like, here's a message. It's to Matatu drivers to slow down.
What?
But he was part of a group called Impulse.
Who was it? Who else was in Impulse?
The only other person who I can remember by name from Impulse, aside from Jimmy Gathu, was someone who would become a radio presenter and now works in the church. His name is Sarah Skikori.
What?
Yeah, they used to sing together in Impulse. Now, Impulse, the most well-known song was called Why Me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Da-na-na-na-na.
By the way, I'm interviewing Jimmy Gathu.
Ah, nice. Oh, please tell. Impulse will definitely come up. So because Jimmy they had a group called Impulse. Jimmy was pretty popular. He had access to equipment. So where he didn't have the budget to shoot something high quality as Look, Think, Stay Alive, which was a PSA song, so it has a lot of NGO money on that, he would go and shoot his own videos. And then he'd be like, oh, and this is a song by a group I'm in, Impulse, and this is a song called Kairetu Kataka. And they had a song which Kairetu, and they were trying to go for, we want to go for this urban beat, but we also want to go back to traditional Kikuyu Ninis and add some nice twist onto them.
Yeah.
Guys were visionary. Then afterwards, as his circle started expanding, suddenly they realized there's a lot of young people who don't know what's going on the Kenyan theatre scene, for instance. So they would take a camera out and go film a little bit of a Phoenix play and then talk to Charles Kiari. And we're like, wow, I didn't know that this was what Phoenix was like. And then again, as it kept growing, a co-presenter came in to help Jimmy out. And she was a Phoenix actress, young, very, very good at what she did. Her name was Lona Irungu.
Yes. This is where Lona comes in now.
Yeah, Lona Irungu became a co-presenter with Jimmy. And I think at one point after
Well,
Jimmy
Lona
left,
right
she
now
was
is the
on who was
MD of
there.
Jinadine.
Yeah, imagine that. Look at that, man. So what KTN did during those times was really, as far as you can democratize entertainment, suddenly we had a say in it. And what we had to say then sort of shifted what was cool. Jimmy Gath would take requests. He'd be like, write a letter. I remember at my desk in primary school, one of my desk mates, and I think her name was Akinyi, and Akinyi was like, I'm writing a letter to Jimmy Gathu and we want to make requests and dedications. What song do you want to write? And I said, My Favorite Girl by New Kids on the Block. He didn't play it, but he played all the other songs. This is a song by Akinyi dedicated to so-and-so. She wants to say da-da-da-da-da on TV. And of course, Akinyi is losing her shit at home. Like, what?
You made it.
That's what it did. So suddenly a lot of local entertainment started creeping up into Jimmy's show. But it was also magazine type of, this is what was happening in entertainment last week.
Okay, let me ask you. The reason why you've explained this is because I've been trying to figure out now how is music affecting you in school, and all these other things. But let's talk about radio.
So radio.
And
Okay,
take
so
us
like I was
back,
saying,
like,
I'm
from
taking you back to,
FMW.
1992 when we became a multi-party state.
Yeah. Because
The
before that
government-
there was only one.
It was all state owned, and
there was no FM.
Whatever was the equivalent of the communications commission was in charge of handing out frequencies. The reason why we had only 2 frequencies was because of both state owned, and those are the only ones that were allowed to exist, because they weren't doing this sort of thing of just giving out, because we'll have you open a radio station and then you'll start becoming a dissenting voice for the government.
Yes, you'll do what we're doing.
We'll do pretty much propaganda in another direction. So Makenya movement, the Nyayo House Torture Chambers, Saba Saba and all that, and suddenly there's all this pressure on M1's government there needs to be freedom, like civic, like
Part of it
civic
was freedom of speech, press.
Freedom of speech, freedom of the press. So in 1994, I believe, another landmark event happened, and I remember the press referring to it as the liberalization of the airwaves. I didn't understand what it meant, But what they were basically saying was, now we can actually start handing out airwaves, like frequencies, to people. Now, there's still a lot of hoops that you had to jump through.
Yeah.
So, remember, I was talking about 747 English service, 612 Kiswahili service. As
On
FM
MW.
now became a technology on medium wave, on MW.
Okay.
But as FM suddenly became a thing, and people were buying cars now that had an FM radio on it, you'd realize if you turned the dial for the MW was, it sounded muffled. It sounded really muffled because that was the quality of sound. But once you went to FM, all the sound suddenly became clearer and you could hear
FM
instruments
meaning?
popping out and frequency modulation.
Okay.
So when you went from medium wave to now FM. And I don't know what the science behind it was, but it's something to do with waves and the way the waves are transmitted. But medium wave was waves going like this, short wave was shorter waves, but frequency modulation was the equivalent of digital. So suddenly you can carry a lot of information in the same sort of number of waves in much higher quality.
You don't lose that much.
You're not losing quality.
Yeah.
So suddenly everyone's voices sound clearer and it's amazing. And if you were next to two cars that were parked to each other, you could listen to MW and be like, they're listening to MW FM. So you'd realize if you turned the dial and switched your modulator, for instance, from MW to FM, KBC English service would still play on FM under the commensurate frequency on the dial, and that was 95.6. So technically the first FM station to exist was KBC English service on 95.6. So a lot of people were switching from listening to the same content on 747 to 95.6. When the airways were liberalized, I remember we started hearing ads on KBC about, they're talking about it on the streets, in the homes, and even on the playgrounds. 89.9 something FM. And we were like, I didn't talk like this on the radio ever. Because everything was formal and we only had people talk like this in the ads. And even the ads still didn't have a finesse to them, but suddenly there's finesse. And 89.9 never happened, but in its place, another frequency came out, another radio station, 101.9 Metro FM.
Metro FM.
Also owned by
a state.
No, also owned by KBC, but this wasn't a state run because they were like, if this FM thing is going to be happening, we're liberalizing the airwaves, we want to be in on that action as well. So Metro FM, and then this other station comes out of nowhere
and changes the game.
And changes the game completely because it has, I mean, you know, when you think about it, it was a station that was run with very heavily accented radio presenters, British or American, and they were playing Spice Girls and they were playing all this music that you ordinarily wouldn't hear, a lot of rock and a lot of like, what is this? To the extent that Mado was like, with this new station coming out that sounds so foreign, you have experts coming into Kenya, turning on the radio and saying, darling, I thought we left the UK. And there was like a little radio there and he drew words because that's how Jungus sounds. And that station was Capital FM.
This is a warning for every borough in Kenya. Anywhere you are, all you have to do is switch on your power music station and get hooked.
101.9 Metro FM.
Our target audience is between the ages of teenagers, between 15 and 35.
15 and 35.
Yeah, and if you feel you're young enough or young at heart, then you can still tune in.
We don't tend to, as a station, have an opinion. We sit as a forum for other people to have their opinions. So the presenters really are the forum for, and we have a lot of open line people calling in. It's for them to air their views. We play some Lingala in our Hits Not Homework program, in our evening program, and Lingala is extremely popular. But now they're going into hip hop, they're going into rap, and that's the American influence really, and American TV and Channel O and so on.
You've also got a radio slot. Talk to me about that.
Stay tuned, manze. Kuna interview fulani hapa inafaa kuchapwa noma sana. Stay tuned 251964 Wakilishi Show.
Baka kwa X-Files My MC wakiniona wote wana enter exile Kama Mobutu Sese Seko Naleta mtetemeko shinda thunder Kila mtu ana
Wakilishi Show came out, we dreamt about it.
Yeah.
We thought of taking hip-hop to another level here in Kenya because also people knew about hip-hop, but the kind of hip-hop they knew is Will Smith kind of stuff. But us guys used to listen to Tim Westwood on tapes from the UK.
Yeah.
So we were like, why can't we have such an in Kenya?
Knocking on your door, who all stars? Soul in the hole. Special dedication to wase wote wanapiga hapa masimu Nyambene Veve. Tuko na vibaya sana hapa hivi. 251964 is the dial.
So at one point, Metro FM and Capital FM were the two biggest stations. And Metro FM still had a very, very, very local thing. So they weren't playing Sundown. They were playing a lot of hip urban music. And suddenly when all these Kenyan groups were coming up,
they picked
the first place that their music was played was on Metro FM.
Occasionally you have the really amazing, talented artist locally who does something totally different, blows your mind. And I give them airplay, for sure.
A lot of our music is international music. I would say 90% is international music and only 10% is local sort of urban stuff. And that's because we can't get the quality of music, we can't get the CDs, we can't get DATs.
We haven't gotten to a point whereby the radio stations, just for playing your music, they pay you dividends. So for right now, as a matter of fact, it's the opposite.
There's such a lot of talent. And what we're doing as a radio station is promoting that talent. We're inviting groups and bands and artists to come on board. And we're almost like relaunching their careers for them.
You know, we're giving them the music and they're playing it. They're really hungry for it. Exactly. The Kenyan people are hungry for Kenyan music. They want more. They want a lot more than there is right now.
The first Kenyan song I had on Metro FM. I was with my uncle on a road trip. We were going to Shags, and just before the FM frequency, Metro died, we're hearing this song. So we're struggling to hear. We're at about Roiro. So suddenly you're hearing music, and it's starting, and then we're hearing Serengeti. And I'm like, Uncle, did they say Serengeti groove? Serengeti, how does a group in the US know about Serengeti groove? Then soon the newspapers come out and say there's this new group called Shades of Black. And they're Kenyan and they have a song called Serengeti Groove. And we're like, what? And then weeks later, Jimmy Gatu is like, there's this event that happened, and if you've heard of this group Shades of Black, they performed their song called Serengeti Groove, check it out now. And he didn't play a music video of Serengeti Groove. He played a video from a KTN camera filming Shades of Black performing Serengeti Groove.
Everybody
And that's how we met Shades of Black, Poxy Pressure, Darlin P.
Hudstone.
Hudstone was, I'm putting him aside because now in Hudstone. And Gidi Gidi Maji Maji. I remember those four were like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then Hudstone. The first time I saw Hudstone was when he was winning his award at the first Kisima Awards. And he performed Ohiki. And we were all like, everything has changed now.
You're still in high school?
I'm in high school at this point. But you remember now, a year later,
is when now
Kalamashaka and Nikki and them come.
School,
yeah. That's it. And suddenly there's like music to call our own. So props to Jimmy Gatho, man. Like he introduced us to the visual aspect of this music. Otherwise, we'd have radio and print telling us what's cool, and all we'd have was sounds and still pictures. But now when KTN now with Club Kiboko started covering a lot of what was happening in the entertainment scene, we were suddenly exposed to a lot of stuff going on within Kenya, in addition to the cartoons and the stuff that we were watching. And he started telling us a bit about music and a bit about theater, and soon this very multi-layered, multi-genre, like there was so much entertainment on offer. Entertainment that I, as a 12 to 17-year-old, could never go out and see myself. So this is how it was. This is how we're consuming that content.
That's crazy.
It's really crazy.
Because I remember every morning waking up, in that era of my pre-teens into teens, I remember waking up, switching on the Club Kiboko.
Yeah.
And then you watch that, and then now you can enter your video games. But this one, you watched.
But that was sacred time.
Yes.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. It was like that.
So now let me ask you, let's go back to your high school.
Yeah.
What happens now as these artists begin now? Now you're beginning to interact with local musicians.
Yeah.
How does that affect you now?
I'll tell you how it affected me.